Here's a problem that most do-it-yourselfers can repair on their own, and that would be any decking boards that are raising up or sinking down. Now let's go ahead and get started with the boards that are raising. And most of the boards raise up because of the type of lumber, the grain in the lumber, knots, moisture in the air, no moisture in the air, kind of expansion and contraction. You could end up with something like this over time. And I've seen boards pull nails right out of the joist, and doesn't seem to happen as much with screws, which is why I'm going to suggest replacing the nails with screws instead. So if you do have a problem like this, give you an idea of what's going on, just separating from the joist. So if you do have a problem like this, I would simply suggest to pre-drill some holes in the deck planking and then put some screws in them. Now, longer screws, obviously. So you could start with smaller screws. You could get an assortment of screws. I would say once you use a screw that's more than 4 inches, you might have a problem with the lumber. So the nails have pulled out of the joist because they're smooth. The screws will actually pull this plank down most of the time if the joist is still in good shape. If everything goes to plan, you should end up with something like this. The nails, of course, will need to be driven back down or removed. You can always remove these nails and install 2 more screws there. If for some reason your screws are not working, then you will need to install some type of a board underneath the deck planking. And of course, this board doesn't need to be the full length of the joist. It can always be a 2x4. And this will provide you with an area to come back a little bit. Go back here. It'll come back to where you can put screws farther back. So sometimes you're going to have the end of the deck planking will be in bad shape, or the joist is in bad shape. Now, if any of these are in too bad of shape, then they will need to be replaced. If you can't get to the underside of the deck, the joist, to nail a block in, you might want to try angling a screw. And this screw, of course, can be placed in a variety of different spots and angled to wherever you think you're going to be able to, it'll do the most good. And pre-drilling holes, again, is going to be a little better than just driving these screws in. So if you are going to angle it, drill a hole at an angle, see if that works. And of course, you might actually need to get the deck planking in the correct position before you attach or use this method. Because it might not pull it down. So keep that in mind also. Here's another method that might be helpful if you cannot access the bottom of the deck, and that would be to simply cut a piece of the decking out and either install a new piece, or if you need, because the joist is bad, to install another block next to it. You'd be able to do that with some screws or nails. And you could always put one on both sides if you needed some extra supports. Not uncommon to run into a deck planking that only leaves you about a 1/2 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch on the side. And this, of course, creates problems for the decking also. If you're building a deck, try to center the breaks of the decking planks over the joist. That is a must-do. And then, of course, you would simply replace the planking and attach it with screws or nails. Here's another idea if you cannot access the deck because it's blocked by the perimeter somehow, and that would be to simply cut an access hole into the top of the deck. And then, of course, you would screw these planks back down. You would not nail them down so that you could always use it as an access hole again. Now, I see this a lot. I'll be walking through some area and in a public area, and you'll come across a section that has 3 or 4 planks, and you're like, what's this for? Why did they mess this up? And a lot of times it's just an access hole. So access hole If you need to get underneath your deck and somehow it's being blocked off by the perimeter, might be a good idea also for these types of repairs. Here's another idea you could do if you have the damage here and the ends of the decking are damaged, or this might actually work better for you, would just simply be to go over to the next joist and cut down the center. And the nails, of course, would probably need to be removed. And then just simply install a new plank in there and you're done. Now, don't forget, you could always install your blocks here. If this joist was damaged, you can install a block up against here, a block here, and a block here if you needed more support. Now, this problem is going to be a little more common than the lifting, and that, of course, would be the sinking. And, of course, you walk across these and you feel like you are ready to fall through the deck. Not a good thing, especially on taller decks. Most of the time, this problem is going to be caused by wood rot or termite damage, but it can also be caused, as I mentioned earlier, when the end of the planking is barely holding on, barely sitting on top of one of these joists and not centered on it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rot. There it is, perfectly shaped, nice. The only way I could really draw it, or the easiest way. And of course, you're going to need to install a block. You can use screws and nails and make sure that it is even with the top of the joist. And then that way you can install the planking back and you are done with this type of a repair. So anyway, that's it for this video. Hope it helps. And if it does, you know what to do. Hit the old thumbs up button. And thanks for watching.